Golf Channel and the PGA Tour proudly present On the Range, presented by ReliaQuest. And live Wednesday coverage from the Travelers Championship. An early summer stop in New England. It's been a PGA Tour tradition dating back to 1952. Welcome you to TPC River Highlands in Cromwell, Connecticut, just outside of downtown Hartford. Beautiful conditions right now to start this Wednesday, but there was some rain, more than an inch, that fell yesterday. And a terrific field is gathered here on the heels of last week's United States Open, competed in the Northeast. Great to have you along as part of our coverage today. I'm John Swantek, joined by Richard Lee and Colin Swatton. So 61 players, Richard, who competed last week in the U.S. Open, part of this field of 72 here this week. They were battered and bruised at Shinnecock. They should theoretically get a little easier test here this week.
Oh, absolutely, Swanee. I mean, U.S. Open is probably the hardest test in golf. I mean, now they get to relax a little bit here at the Travelers. I mean, last year the winning score was 15 under for Keegan Bradley. Conditions will be a lot less stressful. And you don't step on the first tee and go, oh boy, here we go. It'll be more like, oh, let's go, make some birdies. So it's a good, fun week for the guys.
26th event of the season, Colin. It's the final signature event for this elite field. The playoffs are quickly encroaching on the horizon, so a lot to play for this deep field here this week.
Yeah, it's the last real opportunity to go out and try and make some really good FedEx Cup points and make that push through to the FedEx Cup playoffs. Obviously, the first of those will be in Memphis. You know, guys like David Lipsky, Brandt Snedeker, Brooks Koepka, Tom Hoagie, of course, Tony Finau. They're all jockeying to try and get into that position. So plenty to play for. Obviously, you know, as you said, Richard, coming off last week, a little bit of a stressful week. They need to get out and they need to go after this golf course this week. It's had a little bit of rain and it is going to play soft and very gettable with lots of scoring opportunities.
Keegan Bradley is the defending champion, the native New Englander from Woodstock, Vermont, who's won this event a couple of times, and he did so in dramatic fashion last year by a shot over Tommy Fleetwood, who was the 54-hole leader. And they went low, deep into the red, as they do here through the years. Beautiful strike here late on this Sunday, trying to run down Fleetwood and snatch the title from Tommy, who, of course, was still trying to win for the first time on the PGA Tour. But Keegan had other ideas, and on Sunday, he holed close to 170 feet with the putts.
Oh, it was ridiculous. I remember last year watching this tournament, and a little bit of heartbreak for Tommy as well, and Keegan came through and just took it on the last hole, but incredible.
The whole family was there to celebrate New England's champion, Keegan Bradley, with the trophy in hand in Hartford for his second time. Trying to go back-to-back here for the first time since Phil did it in 01 and 02, and looking to join Bubba Watson for the second most wins in tournament history, trailing only the great Billy Casper, who won here 4 times through the years. Keegan was out early on the range earlier today. One of the elite ball strikers in the game, year in and year out.
He's fun to watch, Colin. I mean, I always feel like he's been one of the better drivers of the ball. I just love the way he kind of just free wheels it on the golf course and hits a nice little fade. It's a beauty.
15 events here at the Travelers. You know, he's had 4 top 10s, 2 wins. Obviously, that win last season, win back in 2023 as well. And as to your point, you know, when you drive the ball as well as he does around this golf course, there's plenty of tilt and camber to a lot of these fairways. When these fairways are firm and fast, they become almost half the size. But when it's a little bit softer conditions, makes it a little bit easier to hit the fairways, and that sets up plenty of opportunities, lots of scoring wedges in hand. And if you can control the spin, you can really get after it. And we've seen some low scores here over the years.
Now, back in the era before the strokes gained metrics were introduced, there was a stat called total driving on the PGA Tour, and it was simply distance and accuracy, and your efficiency in both of those departments. And Keegan Bradley was either at or near the top of the list every season out here.
Very reliable driver of the ball. And this tournament is his major. He's made it that comment a few times. I mean, he grew up in Vermont, in this northeast of part of the country is where he feels the most amount of passion for. And there's a reason why he always gets up for this event.
Yeah, the former downhill skier competitively from Woodstock, Vermont. He will be a big crowd favorite this week. You can see the cars off in the distance there rolling in on this Wednesday. This is a heavily supported event by the entire community and has been for decades, and they will turn out in droves this week. And that scene at 18 on Sunday is one of the best we get on the PGA Tour.
A real amphitheater finishing hole, par 4, back up towards the clubhouse. Huge build out on the left-hand side. A real sort of, like I say, amphitheater behind. Plenty of fans can sit on the grass there, watch their favorite players finish, and finish in style he did, birding the last hole.
The loss in his Ryder Cup captaincy Bethpage last year really stung. I mean, he was in a funk, admittedly. It took him a while to shake that off. You might say he hasn't fully done it, but you look at some results indicating that the game is perking up. He's got 4 top 25s in 15 starts this season and 32nd last week at Shinnecock.
Yeah, that's the thing with, you know, guys like Keegan. Obviously, with that responsibility of being a Ryder Cup captain comes a lot of commitments, a lot of time that it takes away, both from your game, but also too mentally. You have to sacrifice so much in that position. And sometimes, you know, coming off a defeat that you had, you know, at Bethpage like that to the Europeans takes a lot out of you and just takes you a little time to get back into your routine, get back into just playing golf mode versus the responsibilities that come with it.
So we're looking at the data here, Richard, and checking the apex, the flight, the trajectory, but it's from an uphill perch here on the range. So that's a little different equation for the guys to figure out.
Absolutely. But I think that was another thing that these guys are trying to figure out on a Wednesday is just kind of getting the last feels in, get the consistent carry number. Looks like he's getting an 8-iron looking at the apex and the carry number. But yeah, the range is downhill quite a bit from the player's perspective.
Other way, 397 shots hit by Nick Taylor on the range this week. Did you guys used to grind like that at the University of Washington?
You know, we did. Yeah, we absolutely did. And he's not afraid of work. But if you look at, you know, his stats from the last couple of weeks, you know, T43 at the Memorial, T65 at Canadian Open, missed cut at the US Open, there's a reason why he's kind of trying to find the feel, get back to his good ways. So, you know, you can't shy away from the work.
It's one of those graphics when you start to sort of dig into the percentage of time and the amount of balls that are struck on the driving range. I know for our listeners and our viewers watching back home, you know, so many of these people think that it's the big stick, it's the longer clubs that you spend the majority of your time. In fact, from 250 to 499 yards, obviously no one hits it that far, but only 17.6% of shots have been struck in that particular category. If you dig down a little bit in that sort of 1 to 150, 43% is where these guys are spending the majority of their time. So they know the importance of the scoring wedges, proximity to the pin, huge, and they're going to have to go low this week. So that's no surprise to see the majority of the time spent where they need to be spending their time.
All that data provided by the TourCast range analysis.
What? Is it a nice stadium? Yeah. Is it? Yeah, I mean, I thought it was outdated. It's older now, but... Oh, it was an absolute buzzing atmosphere. Yeah, they have that feature place now. Yeah, Davios, we had in the stadium. Davios is good. Really nice. I'm surprised you guys get in there. It's tough during game days. Yeah, no, it's just walk right down. Yeah, fucking enjoy. I love the place. Yeah. I'm definitely going to go and see a game this winter there. This week? This winter. Oh, yeah. Really? A proper game. Yeah.
I'm not sure if they're talking World Cup or baseball. You're a World Cup guy, Richard. What's going on?
I mean, I'm assuming they're talking about the World Cup because it seems like there's 4 games on every single day right now. And Boston is, you know, not too far from here. And New York, Jersey, MetLife Stadium, they're both hosting World Cup games.
England fans in there? Yeah, there was a
bunch in the top left-hand corner. We were
Hartford is kind of equidistant between New York and Boston. You'll see a strange mixture of Yankee fans and Red Sox fans here this week, and both ball caps represented fervently in the gallery. Well, Colin talked about what an important week it is for a lot of players as we wind down the regular season. I think Jordan Spieth in particular looking to build on what has been an encouraging stretch of golf for him, but it's been 4+ years now since he last won on the PGA Tour at Harbortown.
Yeah, and it's not because he's not working hard. He's definitely doing a lot of work. Still works with Cameron McCormick, you know, good friends with Michael Grella, known him a long time, and he says that his man is very close. It's just a couple of holes, and if you go in and you start to sort of look at the week to week of Jordan Spieth, you know, he's putting together sort of 15 holes, 16 holes that are very, very good. But then there's those couple of holes that he has where he just has, you know, a massive right miss or a left miss with the driver, gets him into trouble, and then suddenly takes him out of a really good finish. 8 top 25 so far on the season. Says that he is close. He's just not being able to capitalize on those opportunities when they present him. But as good as this guy putts, as good as he drives the golf ball, majority of the time, I think he'll be in a position or a situation this week where he'll be looking to hoist the hardware.
2017 Travelers Championship winner when he gave us a little Air Jordan at 18 with that leap into the air after holding out from the bunker on that Sunday. That was awesome. And a new putter in the bag this week as well, Richard.
Oh, this is big news for Jordan. I mean, he's always had that blade putter, but will we see this tomorrow? I don't know, but some signs of things to come. I mean, he definitely, I'm sure he could putt with anything, but this would be a huge change.
Slab putter is becoming wildly popular with these guys, aren't they?
They are. I've tried one. I hate it. I don't know about you, Carl, but
Well, I think the biggest thing with the lab putter, you know, is the amount of torque that isn't there. You know, most people like to either be a little bit more of an arc putter, a little bit more of a square to square. So depending on your stroke is to then matching up the amount of toe hang on it. And all these putters sort of hang at different degrees of toe hang. You know, obviously with this, you know, lab putter, it doesn't have any bias. So I think for a better putter, it makes it more difficult to feel what's happening in the putt. So it'll be interesting. You know, sometimes, you know, you've got to go to the well and sort of test things out and then maybe come back and reaffirm that what you were using was great in the first place rather than not exploring and having doubt.
I think I'll add one thing to that, call is we do see Jordan as probably one of the better mid-range putters, right? But we do see him miss a lot of these little shorties, and I think that's where the mallet will come in handy to bring a little bit more stability like we talked about, and maybe he'll miss less short putts, and maybe that's something that can kind of keep him from, you know, maybe taking that little jump to kind of playing some good golf again. Who knows?
Yeah, it's always interesting, you know, when you look at a guy to the point, you know, of that mid-range, you know, back in 15, 16, there was nobody that hold more putts over 25 feet than Jordan Spieth, but he is suspect to the small one. I don't know. I think the smaller misses come more up from up top than they do, you know, with the stroke itself. If you're stroking and making putts from 25 feet, the expectation is less that you're going to make it. You play and you putt with a little bit more freedom. As you get closer to the hole, you start to miss a few more. Suddenly, you're in a situation where the expectation is, I should be making these, you're not, and it puts more pressure on yourself.
4 years plus since the last victory, but 3 wins since the title here 9 years ago. Of course, one of those, the Open Championship in 2017 at Royal Birkdale, where we're headed next month for the final major of the year. Having just buttoned up the U.S. Open out on Long Island. Gutsy performance by Wyndham Clark. He's part of the field here this week. We'll see Clark in action. 9 of the top 10, the FedEx Cup race, are here. 8 of the top 10 ranked players in the world as well.
One unique thing that I want to mention about Jordan, and Colin, I'm going to ask you this. You see his head tilt, and his eye line is very, like, towards the right at its setup. What do you think the purpose of that? And Colin, from your instructor's point of view, can you share with the viewers a little bit of what that can do for his golf swing?
Yeah, I think when you get your vision, your eyes see best, obviously, in a seated straight position. That's how we see best. Once you actually start to bend over, you'll see his head tilts just a little bit toward that right-hand side. What that actually does is it creates a little bit more of a visual cue to come from the inside. Nicholas was the opposite. He actually used to set his head a little bit more forward tilt. And one reason that he played with a little bit more of a predominant left to right bias, but
Probably more putting.
eye line, perception, so important.
Only one player on the PGA Tour has won 3 times this season. It's Matt Fitzpatrick, who had the FedEx Cup points lead until he was overtaken by Scotty Scheffler following the U.S. Open. More on Matt Fitz, part of this elite field, coming up next on The Range. Welcome back to On the Range. It's Wednesday of the Travelers Championship here on Golf Channel. On the Range presented by ReliaQuest. Another high caliber field on hand here this week. Final signature event 2026. 72 players are here, including Matt Fitzpatrick, who had a spirited run toward what would have been a second U.S. Open last week. A couple late tee times on the weekend. Wyndham Clark, of course, the last man standing. But, Richard, this guy continued his phenomenal play from the entire season.
It's been really fun to see. I mean, see him retracting his shoulders there a little bit. I mean, he has long arms. And I actually talked to Mark Blackburn about what they've kind of been working on as of late and what they have done to kind of get his game to the next level. And essentially, he said, simply put, to try to not let him laterally slide too much. That's why you see him kind of jump out of that left foot and get that more rotational, hitting more cuts. But also him doing that retracting shoulder as his part of his routine is because of his long arms. He's trying to get all the arms a little bit shortened up a little bit. And it's worked really well. And he says something that it's a very technical thing, yet a simple thing that they've worked on. Is trying to create more push into that left toe so he can bounce out of it a little bit better and rotate. And it's been a big key to his success, being able to hit these nice little fades with the irons, and that's really gotten him to this 3 wins this season.
Second on the tour, Colin, strokes gained approaching the green. Only Scheffler has been better. That's a really strong indication of how sharp Fitzpatrick's iron play, in particular, has been this year.
Well, he's also driving the ball extremely well as to that point, and long, you know, and I think, you know, obviously that push into that left toe, You know, you see that left leg starting to straighten and push back. That to help get that left hip a little bit more open is creating speed for him as well. And then suddenly when you start pushing that ball another 10, 15 yards down the fairway, you suddenly now have shorter clubs into the green, a lot more scoring opportunities, and he obviously takes advantage of it. And when he's rolling his rock, boy, there's not many better than him on the greens as well.
He's actually first, as you just saw in strokes gained approaching the green. He's gone from second to first, just hitting a few balls on the range. That's how good he's been this season.
Must be nice.
Little brother Alex in the field here this week as well.
Speaking of somebody taking advantage of, you know, the opportunity, he has certainly been one of those guys that's done that. You know, obviously the win at Harbour Town as well. You know, he talks about that win with his brother Alex at the Zurich and the team's event as being the highlight of his season. I don't think he's done, Richard, either.
I agree with you, Colin. I think he's got more in the tank.
Yeah. Do you want to drink or anything, Dan? No, I'm good, thank you.
Little brother Alex was on the bag for Matt when he won the U.S. Amateur. Of course, would win the U.S. Open 10 years later at Brookline, same course outside of Boston there at the Country Club. Fourth best on the tour in strokes gained total this season. All the ball striking categories, he's up near the top of the list.
Yeah, done some phenomenal work, and I think it's respect to the amount of that work that he has put into his game. And we all know about his yardage book and all the note-taking that he does and how thorough he is with everything. And I think that's what's really impressive with the guys at the top. And especially for Matt, I mean, to have that much, I don't know, obsession over your game is impressive.
Infamously charts every shot he has hit in competition. He's got reams and reams of books full of that intel, that data that he keeps, never gets rid of it.
I think it's an important thing to do is to keep a catalog of all of the moments that have been good and have not been also good. And then that way it helps you make a decision in the moment with less, let's just say less attitude, less, what's the word I'm looking for there, Richard?
Emotion?
Yeah, emotion, you know, because when you get out onto the golf course and you're in the heat of the battle and you're trying to make decisions, you need to make decisions that are based on factual information.
Eighth and final signature event of the season. $20 million purse on offer this week. $3.6 million going to the champion. Going to join that list of guys who have won the signature events this season. JT Poston, most recently at Jack Nicklaus's event just a few weeks ago. Breakthrough for the young Norwegian Christopher Drayton at the Trues Championship at Quail Hollow. He just snuck into the Cadillac Championship the week before off the alternate list. Top 10 there. It got him into Charlotte, and he was the man with the trophy and the big check in his hands.
How about this guy? Yeah. I mean, what a week at Memorial. I mean, the way he grinded out the victory towards the end, too, that was impressive.
James Tyree Poston from Hickory, North Carolina, one of the best putters on the PGA Tour every year, Colin. That's a nice safety net to have, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing. We always talk about how good he is, you know, on the greens, you know, the old boss, the Moss. But he looked very composed. He looked like it had not been a while since his last win. He looked extremely comfortable on a golf course that demands so much of you, especially coming down that closing stretch of holes. And he just, cool as a cucumber, was able to take care of business. And there was really no form leading into it. It wasn't like he was putting himself in situations where he's like, okay, I can see, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel. And like so many of these guys, and he said it best in his speech afterwards, he said he believed, he thought he was close. You know, the scores weren't reflective of it, and we can look back through his season and say, yeah, there was no signs that, you know, he was going to play well and pick up a signature event. at Jack's place, but as long as the player, and you can probably speak to it better than I can, Richard, is as long as the player senses that they're close, they see moments during a round or on the practice tee where they feel that they're gaining or gandering that sort of momentum, that's how they build upon that momentum.
100%. And I think as a player, you know the quality of the shots that you can hit and you have hit, but you probably combine that with a few mistakes or mental mistakes. I mean, leading up to it, his best finish was T21 at the Valero Texas Open. That was in April. And you come up, but that belief that you talked about is so big for a player's mindset, their energy, knowing that, hey, I'm this close to all cylinders firing. And he did. And wins Memorial, T4 at the US Open, and maybe, I would not be surprised, he's going to be near the top of the leaderboard this week. Amazing how 1 week or a one swing thought or a feel or a group of holes in a tournament can change your whole season around, because you find something and you see it, you felt it, and now you believe it. It's a triple threat.
Yeah, and it's a credit to the team and around him, his coaching team, his caddy as well, to be able to also gander that belief and that trust to not go anywhere and look for something, whether it's a new drive or a new swing thought, or,
right.
Changing the way that you go about your process on the golf course. You just stick with what has worked and you trust and you believe it. And, sooner or later you get your breakthrough.
4 victories now on the PGA Tour for JT Poston. Certainly one to keep a close eye on this week. As Richard said, the form has been exceptional and a strong showing last week at the US Open as well. Saw Keegan Bradley out there on the range earlier, defending his title this week and trying to win here in his native New England for the 3rd time. And while he was out doing a little work, our man Robert Dameron caught up with Keegan.
Keegan, brutal week last week at Shinnecock Hills. You played well, a little good, a little bad. There's still some lingering mental fatigue, or you past that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, after a major, especially US Open, you're mentally tired. But when you come to a place like Travelers, it's a much different vibe, a little more relaxed, and it's great.
Well, you obviously have a lot of success here. 2 of the last 3 times you've played here, you've won. I know you've got the kind of home away from home vibe, and that's always fun here. But what is it about the course itself? The greens must suit you, the tee shot, something.
Yeah, I mean, this is how I grew up playing golf, on this grass, on this style golf course. And I've always putted pretty well here. And then, a lot of the shots fit my eye very well. So, it's a tournament that I look forward to playing every year.
Turned 40 a couple weeks ago. More Advil, extra time in the gym, extra time in the physio trailer?
Yeah, I mean, I still feel, I don't feel 40, but it's weird to be 40 years old now here, because I remember meeting some of my idols and they were like 38 when I first came out, and it's weird to think that I'm older than them now.
Yeah, they seemed old back then.
Yeah.
We'll get back to it. Good luck this week. Thanks very much. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Robert, and appreciate some of Keegan's time. Yes, it's Bennett Scheffler, future world #1, just hitting the range here. Oh, his dad's here as well. He's also part of the field of 72, trying to win the Travelers Championship for the 2nd time.
That's amazing.
I love that Dad makes him carry his own bag, by the way. All right, Schefflers, let's get to work. More on Scotty and his continued pursuit of greatness when we come back on the range. All right, we got Scotty and Bennett on the range here. We've broken down Dad's swing plenty of times, Colin. How about the little guy here?
Oh, look at this. Getting instruction from the #1 player in the world, Scotty Scheffler.
Let's do it.
Oh, look at this.
Active footwork, of course.
Now, that's just to keep the body moving. Early wrist cock here. Look at that position at the top here. Look at that flat left wrist, club face perfectly aligned to the back of the left hand. He's a little loss of posture there, but that's to be expected. Not quite the core strength that's needed. Didn't even look at the ball. That's impressive. You can see those eyes are way out over here. Caught it a little in the heel, tugged it a little left. But what a special moment there. You're able to stand there and watch your son.
There may have been snacks in Bennett's peripheral vision there. I took his eye off the ball there, but and how about the flow? The lettuce on young Bennett.
That's I can respect that. That's a nice flow.
Now Pops just getting to work here. Headlining the field here this week, 2024 champion here. Coming off a tie for 4th last week and had a few more putts dropped over the final 2 days. Richard, this may have been the latest man holding the career Grand Slam.
Close call, that's for sure. I mean, he had it. And I know he hasn't, I know people say, oh, Scotty, what's wrong with Scotty? But the funny thing is, I mean, nothing's wrong. It's just golf is hard when you got to put it all together. So, but yeah, I think we can all agree that the career Grand Slam is coming for Scotty at some point, sooner than later, in my opinion. But this guy is so impressive in all cylinders, and I have a massive respect for his game.
Well, I think he's the closest thing that we've seen to Tiger Woods, you know, in the way that he's winning and the clip that he's winning. You know, he's got 20 wins already. You know, he turned pro in 2018. You know, like what he is doing, you know, we haven't seen since the time, you know, of Tiger Woods, you know, who's got 82 wins. It's, you know, as long as he remains focused, interested, wants the longevity and the career, he's on track. But to your point, Richard, there's just no flaws in his game. And I think that all comes back to the nature of him. You know, talking to Ted Scott, he said the intensity that Scotty Scheffler practices with, the intent of every golf ball that's struck is an opportunity to be able to put the best move on that one golf ball, be it in tournament play or in practice. And that focus and that intensity you see out on the golf course. And I don't think there's anyone that's mentally as strong as Scotty Scheffler now in the game.
And to that point, Colin, look, you see Teddy on the back there, you know, making sure every golf ball's dry. You know, they got the TrackMan out to get the numbers. And we all know the importance that Scotty puts on his fundamentals, the grip, the posture, the setup, and everything that he does, it goes right into it. There's no shot wasted. And right now, as a player that on the range, Scotty is really getting his feels. Hey, how far is this flying? I feel like I'm going to hit it about 110, and how far is it actually flying? You take all that into the week, and yeah, of course, our feels change week to week, time to time, but for a guy like Scotty to be that dialed in, he's just getting through his numbers. And look, every time he hits a shot, he goes through that routine with his grip and just getting it in the right spot, because this is a fine line between a good shot, a bad shot, and a great shot. So why waste it?
You can get your hands on that molded grip, too, if you're an 18 handicapper. You're not going to be able to hit it like this guy, but you'll learn how to properly set your hands on the club.
100%. I mean, I think the grip is one of the most overlooked fundamentals that a lot of the golfers ignore. But when you see the #1 player in the world doing it, you should probably do it, Colin.
Yeah, you know, that's the beauty of this product, you know, being able to sort of stand and be on the range with the world's best players as they prepare for the final signature event on the PGA Tour calendar. You'll see how they go about things. We've mentioned the molded grip, we've mentioned the discipline. We've already seen a number of players already on the range, and they all put alignment sticks down. They all start with, excuse me, short clubs, and they work through their bag in a process, and they finish with the longer stuff. You spend enough time on the practice tee now with your coaching and tutelage, and And so many of the people that we deal with on a week-to-week basis as coaches, as instructors of the game, the first club to come out of the bag is the big stick. And it's like, hey, let's solve the problems of the world. It's like, hang on a minute. Cool your jets there, Starsky. Let's start with the short game. Let's start with what's important, those fundamentals you listed, the grip, the aim, the setup, the stance, the ball position, the alignment, the posture. All of those things hugely important because it sets up the catalyst for the rest of the golf swing.
100%. Yeah, it's always feel like I call it putting deposit in the bank all the time with doing the things that you're supposed to do on a daily basis. And in the end, when you kind of just do it all the time, you're going to have a lot of money in the bank. And Scotty, that is actually true. But he does a lot of these little things right. And I love seeing the 2 alignment sticks and a little railroad track and TrackMan, golf balls dry. I mean, all the things you can do in making sure the club face is clean and all that. It's no shot wasted. I love it.
Robert Dameron's down there with eyes on world number 1. Want to jump in here?
Yeah, I mean, watching Scotty do the same thing he does every time he warms up, a lot of high balls, a lot of high cuts, of course. But I'm reminded, Colin, watching, Scotty warm up the way he does every time. He starts off with the molded grip. We saw him last week working on with his caddy, with his coach, the left-hand grip. And I'm reminded that Arnold Palmer used to tell me, he told me multiple times, but the only thing he worked on from before winning the U.S. Amateur to his last shot ever in competition was his left-hand grip. And I said, that can't be right. He goes, no, I just made sure if my left hand is nice and neutral and not too strong, I could hit my draw and not lose it. So his entire career was really based on the simplest of simple thoughts. Just remind myself to get my left-hand grip on the proper part of the golf club. And really, Scotty is very, very close to that. You're looking at already Hall of Fame career, and his one swing key is just like Arnold Palmer's. Make sure it fits well into that left-hand grip. It's amazing for me to see.
Yeah, it's a great point that you bring up, Robert. Realistically, and I say this all the time on the practice tee, the only thing that touches the golf club is your hands. And if you don't stress the importance of putting those hands on in the correct position. Now, when I say correct position, it's the correct position for your intended shot. You want to draw the ball, it can be a little bit stronger in position. And when we talk stronger, we're talking about the position of the grip, not necessarily the strength or the pressure that you grip the club with. If you want to hit it a little bit weaker, you can slide the hand a little bit more to the left side, and it can be a little bit weaker in position as well. So the grip is hugely important, as is the ball position. As we just take a little down the line view here of Scotty Scheffler, I'm actually just going to put on one line here, and that's just his what we call shaft plane. The next line is what we call turn shoulder plane here. Just watch as we swing this club back here a little bit. We're going to see what happens. You can see a little outside, a little lifting of the hands, the club. And Scotty Scheffler swings on what is called a little bit more of an upright plane. See how his hands are closer to that line, out closer towards his head. Gets that club just a little bit across the line at the top of the swing there. And then you watch as he starts to come down here. You watch those hands and the club trace that top line. A little bit more what we would class over the top. And that's the reason that we see him get sort of in that stuck position there. A lot of lateral motion, a lot of lateral slide there, shoulders aiming well out towards the right-hand side. And it's almost like a guaranteed push or a fade as we just roll that all the way to the finish position. And when you get very vertical like that in the golf swing, you actually don't have to have as much rotation in the club face. That's why you tend to swing it a little bit straighter. Payne Stewart, another one that used to swing very upright. Jack Nicklaus also used to swing very upright as well. Once you start swinging flatter, closer to that bottom line that I drew on your screen, you have to then rotate that face in order to get back to the ball. Or you need to rotate the body more to do that. So it's horses for courses, it's matchups, and it all stems from, how you grip the golf club, to Robert's point.
Scotty is almost like the opposite of Matt Fitzpatrick's movement, right? He's getting a little bit more up and slidey. Matt is the other way, rotational. And that's another reason why Scotty, when he misses his shot, he gets a little bit blocked out to the right and kind of gets stuck, like Colin just talked about. And guys who have more of a steeper plane, their misses will be a little bit of that early extension. That's one of the way to shallow the club, and you can get stuck underneath and hits and pushes. And you see Scotty working a lot with his coach, keeping his butt back, keeping the space intact for his swing move. But like Colin said, golf swing is all about matchups and understanding what do I do? What do I need to do? Not what does he do and I copy that. No, no, no. You got to understand your swing and your game, understand your misses and feels. And that is why it's so important to have your fundamentals checked and the basics down so you can always make adjustments on the fly. And that's why Scotty is one of the best at it. I always felt like the best players in the world are good at adjusting because they know their feels so well.
Been under the tutelage of the Hall of Famer, Randy Smith, since he was a little boy in the Dallas area. And Randy first laid eyes on this kid who used to wear pants to the range because he wanted to be a PGA Tour pro someday. And he saw him hit high shots, low shots, fades, draws, all of it as an 8-year-old, and said, there's a special gift and talent there, and I'm not going to mess with it. And they've been working together, Scotty's entire life and professional career. Xander Schauffele, all over leaderboards, isn't he? Week after week. In the hunt last week at the U.S. Open as well, and on the short list of players to keep a close eye on this week in Hartford as well. Welcome back to On the Range, live at TPC River Highlands. Presented by ReliaQuest. "61 players from last week's U.S. Open are here, including Xander Schauffele, who finished tied for 11th at Shinnecock, and the champion here in 2022, winner by 2 strokes that year over JT Poston and Sahith Theegala. Doing a little work on the practice green to start his week here.
I think Xander is another one of those guys. We just talked about Scotty on the range, how disciplined he is with this stuff. And Xander is another guy who, you see those little plates that he has down there. He works with his caddy Austin and his coach Derek, always on start line, aim, and it's the basic fundamentals of what he does all the time with the setup. Those plates have a mirror reflection, so you can see your shoulder plane, your eye line, where your eyes are, but it's so important. I love the way he putts and is so consistent with what he does in practice, and he's one of the best at it. 9th in strokes gained putting this year, and I feel like every year I love the way he sets up to the putter. And Colin, I'm sure you can add to this. How important is it for the guys on tour to have this type of fundamental practice routine in their arsenal.
Yeah, they've got to have what they do to calibrate every single week. And to be a good putter, let's be honest, you need to be a good green reader, you need to have exceptional speed control, and you need to be able to start the ball on line. And that string line that you saw him putting with there is to help calibrate his eyes so that he knows that he's in the same position every week. You mentioned the mirrors, you can see them just down on the ground there. That helps calibrate the putter face to make sure that you can swing between the gates, which keeps your stroke roughly within the bumper rails. And then the rest of it is green reading. You know, it's understanding that speed that you're striking that putt with needs to be consistent. One thing that I like to do with my players is to actually have a phantom hole where you actually putt to just a normal like putting disc. That way you can see the ball roll over it and you get to see how far you're hitting the putt past all the time, and that helps with speed control.
Eric Cole, the good chance to win at Colonial last month, upended by Russell Henley in a playoff there at the Charles Schwab Challenge. Rookie of the Year, a few seasons back out here. In his late 30s, in fact. It was a terrific story that he authored that season, becoming the oldest Rookie of the Year honoree since Todd Hamilton, 2004, the year that Todd won the Open Championship. This guy's a grinder, Richard. He loves to play, rarely takes a week off. In fact, he had a free week a couple seasons back, and he went out and played in a mini tour event just because he wanted to stay sharp.
It's incredible how many times he plays. I mean, I guess this guy just loves to play golf. I don't know how you can, you know, on an off week, go play more golf, but that's who he is. And Colin, you can add to this. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, the guy in 2024 played 34 times. In 2025, he played 32 times. He's played 16 events so far this year. How much is too much? I know when you talk to the top players, you know, the Rory McIlroys, the Scotty Schefflers, you know, the Xander Schauffele's, their magic number is somewhere between 18 to 20. You know, it becomes almost, is he playing too much golf and therefore not being fresh mentally or physically to be able to chalk up your first win on the PGA Tour? Or is it something that, hey, I just love the game so much and that's what I've done my whole career and that's what I'll continue to do? But, you know, certainly finding what is your best or most amount of, you know, rounds you want to play in a year, or is it 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row, you know, so on and so forth. It's going to be interesting. Certainly it's going to be interesting to see how things unfold after, you know, what Brian Rowlatt was sort of mentioning about, you know, potentially what's going to happen with the PGA Tour schedule, you know, with regards to weeks on, weeks off, amount of events you need to play or have to play in a season. But, you know, I'm sure him and his camp are trying to figure it all out and what is going to be the secret sauce for Eric Cole.
Yeah, when that new look PGA Tour schedule takes shape in 2028, Richard, talk about that sweet spot of 18, 20 events that Colin alluded to. That's where a lot of guys are probably going to land in that new landscape.
I would say so, and I think that's important to balance out your schedule, know when you want to peak, and around the majors for the top players, obviously. And yeah, I think that 18, 20 is a good number. And I think Rory this year is, what, at 12 events maybe? I mean, he might not even hit the 15 minimum, so everyone is different. But yeah, I think that 18, 20 number is the sweet spot for sure.
Yeah, I think so much of it's going to be too. I know when the schedule came out, we saw the PGA Championship was going to be on the back end of, you know, 4 in a row for a lot of these guys. They were all like, what's going on? You know, so I think Brian and his team have got, you know, their hands full to be able to sort of sandwich where the majors are and then try and fit the right amount of tournaments in so that, you know, guys aren't playing 4 leading into a major or 3 leading into a major, things like that. But it's tricky. It's going to be a different landscape. It's lots of, you know, money to play for, and for that top tier, it's going to be very interesting. It's going to change a lot of people, you know, with a number of 90, you know, are going to secure that opportunity to play the following year. They're all going to have cuts back again. It's going to be interesting. Definitely the PGA Tour has evolved and changed over the years.
Eric Cole slipped into the field through the Aon Swing 5, along with the ageless Brant Snedeker, who just won a few weeks ago. Brant's going to captain the U.S. President's Cup team at Madonna later this fall. But the game still of the highest quality to win for the 9th time on the PGA Tour. Jackson Suber, Mac Meisner, Mark Hubbard, the other guys to gain entry here this week through the Aon Swing 5. Somewhat of a quiet season for Hideki Matsuyama, hasn't it? Really, the last couple of years, you could say, since he went wild the Plantation course to start the 2025 season, going 36 under, but it was his only top 10 last season, and there's been a lack of consistency this year for the former Masters champion as well. We'll take a closer look at Hideki's game when we come back on The Range. Time now for a closer look at the par 4 fourth hole here at TPC River Highlands, presented by ReliaQuest. The right approach leads to improved outcomes. Up the hill, bending left to right here at the par 4.
Yeah, it's a difficult hole, this one here. You can see the two bunkers. One guards the right-hand side, forces the players to take an aggressive line over that right-hand corner. If you find yourself in that thick rough down there, you can see real challenge, 4.38 from there. 4.16 scoring average from that left bunker, but this is where the fun starts, folks, up here at this green complex. It is a challenging green complex. Big fall-offs to the right-hand side, down into that collection area. You can see that green side bunker there, 4.38. And you think long and right, well, long and left is a real challenge. You can see there those sea of red arrows. A very, very difficult green complex for sure. It's created a lot of excitement. Only 24 birdies were made cumulatively for the week last year versus 72 bogeys. That's the reason it plays as the most difficult hole year in, year out.
Very intimate piece of property here. Only 6,800 yards and change this week. Richard, second shortest course on the tour last season. Fourth has been a handful. Hardest hole in the course last season, as Colin said, the birdie percentage scarce, less than 9%. Winner's average score to par on the holes since 1983, which we call the ShotLink era, is in the negative here at the fourth.
I think the hole being 481 yards, it is the longest par 4 the players are going to face. With the green that Colin just talked about, it is like a mini turtleback. I mean, you can't really bail out, and if you do short side yourself, extremely difficult up and down. So that's another reason why being 481, you have to hit the fairway, and the way it curves where the bunker is placed, it's just around that number for guys where it can easily roll in. So yeah, it's a great designed hole.
if you do get it going a little sideways and you're willing to improvise, you can score here at the fourth, even if you play it somewhat unconventionally, as Andrew Novak did last year here. He got a little tangled up, and he felt like his best route was up the third to the fourth green, and that's one way to tackle it.
Yeah, he hit his tee shot way right and he had nothing. I mean, I remember calling this shot, and the lie was ridiculous.
He described the lie a little differently, but yeah, we'll go with ridiculous. It's a family show. And a clean lie there. And a chance to do a little damage control.
Turtleback that Colin mentioned earlier.
It certainly is a tricky little pitch from down there. A lot of guys, if you fly it on top, you can't get it to sit, but for Andrew Novak, that is a beauty. But Aaron tee shot, he pretty much touched them all up the fourth, didn't he?
Touch them all. Runner-up in Phoenix this year, Hideki Matsuyama let that one go. Bogey at the last. Errant driver really was to blame for that. He hasn't missed a cut this season. He's 33rd in the FedEx Cup. Perfectly respectable numbers, Richard, but this is one of the elite players in the game, and that's not acceptable, I would think, to him.
No, I think he have much higher expectations. I mean, he's always been that name on the PGA Tour where we'll go, oh, Hideki's up there again and again. And yeah, to your point, I mean, yeah, he's consistent, made every cut, but exception of Phoenix, really hasn't had a strong of a season.
11 wins on the PGA Tour. He's had 8 internationally as well. You know, it's almost topping 20 wins worldwide. But, you know, it's a case that if it's a healthy Hideki Matsuyama, he's a dangerous Hideki Matsuyama. He is a prolific practicer. He's kind of, I'd put him in that category almost of a Vijay Singh. You know, he spends a lot of time on the driving range, beats a lot of balls, spends a lot of time on the greens putting. He has a sea of putters in his collection. But, you know, sometimes the neck, it's the upper neck that gets a little bit tight, a little bit sore. We've seen him pull out of a number of events, has seasons that sort of are dotted a little bit with how he feels from a physical sense. But I spoke to him at the PGA Championship. He said he's fine. He's also, too, going to do a little bit of a bag share. Shota, his normal caddy, has just had a baby, so he's actually going to be bag sharing with another caddy this year. Sometimes that can be a little bit of a moment where you have to sort of learn and figure out the relationship a little bit. So he's a good dude. I like him, and he is a prolific winner, and I don't think it's going to be long until we see him back in the winner's circle again. What did he win? He won, what, twice in 2024? And then you mentioned the Century in 2025.
Nobody hit more balls out here than Vijay Singh on his way to becoming number one in the world. So that is a rarefied air if you're comparing anyone to Vijay.
It was funny. I was coaching Greg Chalmers on the PGA Tour, and Greg said to me, one week, I'm just going to do whatever Vijay does. If he hits a bucket of balls, I'm in the bucket of balls. If he spends time on the practice green, I'm going to spend time on the practice green.
I think I know where this is going.
After 2 days, he came to me and says, I'm done. I'm done.
I'm out.
I can't. My hands are sore already.
Oh, man. Such a diligent worker, Matsuyama. That game face is on from Thursday to Sunday.
He's probably the only player that I think you could put in the same category as Tiger Woods that has to deal with that media and that scrutiny that Tiger had to do. You know, like Scotty Scheffler, he could still wander around the range, the locker room, the facility, the golf course. But, you know, the amount of cameras and attention and media that's on Hideki Matsuyama from week in, week out, you know, is incredible. So it's also one of those things that you have to learn to be able to deal with and compartmentalize.
Global superstar, and the contingent of media from his homeland that follow his every step, his every shot week after week is extraordinary. The patented Matsuyama pause at the top, Richard, which was his trademark for so many years and was very pronounced at one point, has become more
Right.
subtle through the years, hasn't it?
And it sure has, and that's another point. I think maybe it's part of the injuries that he's dealt with over time, or that transition when you go from that slow pause to kind of like a Cameron Young, these days. But he's one of the more old school golf swings where he really loads that right leg really well. Very super strong legs and very explosive through the ball and very good cadence from lower body to upper body. And it's a classic golf swing.
He's a tinkerer too, isn't he, Cole? He's a tinkerer.
Oh, he's a tinkerer, yeah. He's constantly looking at different options. This one here looks like they're just changing maybe a few weights around. Incredible what these manufacturers are doing with golf equipment nowadays, and you can simply take out a few weights, shift it from the heel to the toe, create totally different shot pattern, flight, trajectory. If you don't already, folks, make sure you seek the tutelage of a PGA member, help them guide you through the process of getting correctly fitted. It makes a huge difference.
Every whim, every need, the PGA Tour player impeccably catered to week in and week out. Ricky Fowler's been out here more than a decade and a half. He understands that. My man's hit 368 shots on the range through the first couple of days. Only Nick Taylor has hit more. Ricky in full grind mode in advance of the opening round tomorrow. Welcome back to On the Range. It's Wednesday at the Travelers Championship, and our Tracer technology is presented by TrackMan. Busy range at that. Including Ricky Fowler. We talked about all the shots he's hit here this week in preparation for the tournament, part of the TourCast range analysis, closing in on 400 balls struck on the range. It was a really encouraging stretch of golf, Richard, a couple months back for Ricky. It looked like he was playing some of the best golf in years, but he has kind of dipped as of late. It's been a minute since he last made it to the weekend.
Golf sure is a fickle game, and always a fan favorite. I love the way he swings the club. I love the way he putts the ball. I do feel like he's really close. And, of course, the last 3 events he's missed a cut and really struggled, but in the given week, that can flip in a moment. So I will not be surprised if Ricky finds his game and kind of get back into form.
It's kind of the same thing we said about Jordan Spieth earlier in the show, Colin. Lots of encouraging signs and trends for Fowler, but, the difficulty has been putting 4 rounds together for Ricky and getting across the line.
And it's, you know, it's probably weighing heavily on his shoulders too, is like, when is it going to happen? You know, and I'm sure, you know, every player goes through those times where they're sort of thinking to themselves, am I going to win again? When's it going to happen? But you have to do what we talked about it with JT Poston earlier in the show. It's that self-belief. It's that ability when you go to the range. And I've spent a lot of time on the range watching Ricky Fowler go through a warm-up session, a practice session. It's hard to say whether he actually mishits a shot. Like, they sound so pure. They're struck perfectly in the middle of the club face. You could hear it there. Just absolute, just fantastic compression. That, look at the divot pattern there. Every single divot is the same depth. You know, when you have that sort of consistency in the depth and you have that consistency in the strike, you know you're going to be keeping the golf ball in front of you enough to be able to score and play well. Then it becomes that mental grind, that mental belief in yourself. Can I get it across the line? And, you know, we saw him play well there at Quail Hollow also. And I think when you drive the ball as good as this guy drives it, and, you know, you get a little bit off with your iron play, and that certainly has been the case. You know, he's 77th in strokes gained approach the green, but it's around the green where he hasn't been doing what he needs to be doing. He's almost 120 on the PGA Tour in strokes gained around the green. That puts a lot of pressure on your putting, puts a lot of pressure on those approach shots. And suddenly you're in a situation where you just feel a little bit uncomfortable. But I think he's extremely close.
Robert Dameron, anything new and interesting in the bag for Ricky down there?
Yeah, it is something to look at here. The last time I interviewed Ricky was at Muirfield Village. I did the range interview, and he finished last place there. So I'm giving him a wide berth. But I can see for sure there are 2 sets of irons, one set in the bag, one laying beside the bag. And interestingly enough, the one set beside the bag that he's been hitting is a graphite shaft in it. And that's, you know, there's kind of 2 reasons to go into graphite. It's typically lighter, and you get a little more speed, which I can't imagine that's necessary with irons. And then the scary part is it doesn't have the vibration, so elbows and wrists don't quite take the impact. So maybe something's going on with the elbows and wrists, or maybe he just wants to try something different.
Let's see which set will be the gamers this week.
Yeah, I think when you miss 3 cuts in a row, you can start to tinker a little bit as well.
Swing looks pretty pure, though, doesn't it, these days, Colin?
It certainly does. And, you know, so many of these let's call them graphite shafts these days, can play as heavy, almost as heavy as steel. I know Jason's been through the process with Avoda Golf, looking at graphite option shafts. I know he was playing a 110. But, you know, it's the vibration, it's the feel, you know, to Robert's point. And, you know, sometimes you've got to try things out to sometimes come back and reaffirm that the path you're on is the correct one. But also, too, is if you don't try, you never know. You know, you could be leaving something on the table as well, Richard.
The what-ifs of golf.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we've talked a little bit about this. A lot of time spent on the range for Nick Taylor, Danny McCarthy. There's Ricky on that list as well, Harry Hall, Nico Echeverria. That could signal any number of things, right, Richard? I mean, it could be player kind of searching for something that's been missing, or just kind of zeroing in on something, some piece of data that he's trying to make use of this week.
For sure. I mean, you look at Nick Taylor, Ricky Fowler, you can just look back at the last 3 weeks. They haven't played well. As simple as that. And they're trying to find the feel. And then some guys might be on the range trying new equipment as well. That could be another factor. But generally, up to a Tuesday, you're hitting that many balls, you're searching a little bit.
65 players have struck more than 8,000 shots on the range here this week. Ball speed average, it's a tough one to get your arms around because they're hitting so many different clubs here this week. Average apex, we talked about the elevated perch where these guys are striking the ball from here at River Highlands. Speed with the longest carry of any single shot here this week.
How about the shortest carry? Just a little chip shot, warm up.
We saw Eric Cole a little bit earlier talking about grinding. He's played 30-plus events a few times out here, and someone that Robert Dameron has known for a long time. They had a chance to catch up a little earlier today.
Eric Cole, during every warm-up, I see you're using this contraption of sorts. What are you doing with this?
Yeah, I just kind of use it to keep my arms together and in front of my chest. And so when I use it, it just gives me a good feel for everything kind of working together. And like day to day, it kind of just gives me a sort of control level to where I can feel what my swing's doing and where my game's at.
A few beers, you'll have a built-in one, like me. You got a little ways to go, though. Tell me about this golf course. You actually didn't play last week. You got to sit home and watch the carnage on TV while relaxing and being mentally fresh. Mm-hmm. How do you feel coming into Hartford?
Yeah, I feel good. You know, I think there's definitely some benefits to not going through that test that they had last week. So definitely feel well-rested and, you know, excited to play here this week. The course is in great shape, as it always is. And, you know, it's a little wet out there, but I think it'll play very similar to previous years.
Your game's been very, very good the last month or so. Is it still going to be coming in pretty sharp after last week? Did you kind of set the clubs down for a while and let them go?
Yeah, I kind of took a little bit of a break, but then, you know, starting Thursday, Friday last week, started practicing and playing again. So, yeah, I think my game feels good, and I've typically played decent here. So, like I said, I'm ready to get the week started.
All right, bud. Good luck, and thank you for the present.
Yeah, I got to get back though.
Okay, on lease. Thanks.
No worries. Thanks.
Rich family lineage there. Eric's dad, Bobby Cole, former PGA Tour champion. His mom, Laura Baugh, like her son, was a Rookie of the Year on the LPGA back in 1973. Sam Burns, boy, came within a whisker of winning the U.S. Open. He's been in the hunt the last couple of years. Runner-up to Wyndham Clark at Shinnecock. In his last 8 PGA Tour starts of the season, Sam Burns has 2 top 5 finishes, one coming at last week's U.S. Open. He has finished nearly 44% of his rounds inside the top 10. Nearly double that conversion rate of top 10s from a season ago. 10th in the FedEx Cup standings. It's pretty much the modern day game right here. Richard hits it far, accurate driver, great putter and usually at his best in big events.
It's an impressive game. I mean, he hits a nice, powerful fade off the tee, which seems to be the trend with a lot of the younger guys. With a ton of power and the great putter. And it's classic golf swing. And it's a very reliable, obviously. The results show it.
He hits it hard, Colin. He gives it a hit, this guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that coming down the stretch. I was watching it with my wife back home in Hilton Head, and she says to me, "Why does he hit it so hard?" And I said, "Because he can." He can. He hits it hard, but also too incredibly, straight, and he, hits that patented like little fade that Richard was mentioning. When the putter's hot, boy, oh boy. But it's been a minute since he's been in the winner's circle. His last win was back at the match played 2023's last stroke play event, and 3 times back in 22. But he is knocking on the door.
Back-to-back U.S. Opens. He was part of the story last year at Oakmont and last week at Shinnecock. Needed one more putt to drop over the finishing stretch on Sunday, and we may have had an 18-hole Monday playoff.
This is post out of Europe.
Yeah, that was a tough break at Oakmont. All for an official who was standing in what was, I would have thought, casual water. Wasn't given it, asked for another ruling, still wasn't given it, and then went on a, double bogey that hole or triple bogey that hole, and that was the end of that for Sam. But it's good to see him sort of with retribution almost last week, but he's coming up a touch shy.
Great college player during his years at LSU. Jack Nicklaus Award winner as the National Men's Player of the Year. 5 professional victories for Sam. A lot of international team competition experience as well. Ryder Cups, President's Cups.
I'd say there's none better in the locker room too than this man here. He's very spirited, plays with a lot of passion.
Close with Scotty as well. They have a personal bond, those two, and they've meshed well together, often paired together in that team competition. Solid in greens and reg this season at 68%. Beautiful range here, by the way. It used to be a tiny piece of property before it was expanded, and you've got all kinds of different shapes and shot values that are afforded to the players this week.
Yeah, it's a very intimate setup here. You've got the putting green just off to the right-hand side of your screen there. The chipping green is more back in the television screen here where you guys are sitting at home, just off to the left-hand side. They also do a great job, too, of providing plenty of sunshade for the week. They've got these red umbrellas down on the range there, provides lots of shade. It can get pretty sticky around this time of the year.
Sure can. Love how he's hitting these little flighted, probably 60-yard wedge shots. There's probably you're going to need a lot of those shots this week, too, with the softer conditions. You got to take some spin off. Kind of these nice little shallow divot wedges, going straight from driver to wedges. It's a good way to kind of get accustomed to it right now on the range as he's picking up some speed. But I love this golf swing. It's pure.
There's no hesitation in it.
No.
He's not trying to put the club in a position. He's got his one routine, which he does, which is, we'll see him occasionally. He'll swing it back. He'll check the club face on the way back to make sure it is where it is. But from then, it is go.
Brilliant round of 67 last week at the U.S. Open for Sam Burns, one of just 3 players to finish in red numbers for the week. Late start to the 2026 season for Sungjae Im, coming off an off-season wrist issue that he was dealing with and managing, so didn't get things going until March. And full steam ahead here this week in Hartford. More on Sungjae when we come back on The Range. Sung Jae Im coming off a tie for 43rd at last week's United States Open. He and 60 others made the trip from Southampton to Cromwell this week.
Sungjae was the Eric Cole before Eric Cole. I mean, he used to play every week. He didn't have a home in the States.
That's right. Eventually settled in the Atlanta area, TPC Sugarloaf. But yeah, 30-plus events. His first few years out here for Sungjae. And that metronomic action of his.
It's a good phrase. It's a thing of beauty. Nice and patient. Really. I mean, I say it's not a broken record. A lot of guys have so many good golf swings, but this one's unique in its own right. It's harder to tell from this angle, but Sungjae plays with a very weak club face to the top, and in transition he squares it down, which is different than most guys, but phenomenal ball striker. And the fact that he made the Tour Championship every year, that's a stat, and I feel like it's hard to do and huge accomplishment.
Got his man Willie Wilcox on the bag there. Was a good stick out here on the PGA Tour for a number of years. One of the guys who made an ace at 17 at TPC Sawgrass, in fact. Got to be careful with those wrist injuries, Cole. And Sungjae was very calculated in his timetable when he was going to return, and it wasn't until the spring of this year when he played his first event.
Yeah, we've talked about it earlier, obviously in the show, about the importance of the grip and the placement of the hands on the grip. And when you have a wrist injury, you almost play with a sense of apprehension, especially when it comes to actually the interaction of the club face into the turf, and the repetition of hitting and the amount of balls that these guys hit. It's one of those things that you need to feel mentally just as ready as you do physically to come back from a wrist injury. But you talked about making the Tour Championship every year. There is nothing wrong with that golf swing. You look at it, it just looks good. It looks athletic. It looks like he's got great lines, great posture, great balance. And when you have those things all in tune, you can't help but keep the ball in front of you.
Well, we're getting word from our man Robert Dameron that Will Ferrell is on the property. There he is, doing a little research for his upcoming Netflix series, The Hawk, perhaps. Lonnie Hawkins is the character that Will portray. He was once a top golfer and trying to kind of recapture the magic late in his career. I wish we had the chance to get him to swing. Have you guys break that one down for us?
Oh, he's in full character right now. That's fun to see.
So 72 of the world's best, and another legend in his own right there.
Wow.
Looking sharp. I mean, dapper from head to toe. Not many people could pull off that look right there.
You don't have any of those, Richard?
Unfortunately not.
One of the things that the Travelers Championship has been known for through the years, guys, is granting sponsor invitations to promising young players. You consider through the years, Webb Simpson, Ricky Fowler, Nick Taylor, Patrick Cantlay, Justin Thomas, John Rahm, Wyndham Clark, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland. You get the idea. They've all been granted access to the PGA Tour by the folks who run the tournament here this week and do such a fabulous job of it. This week's sponsor invite is Ben James, who I think is actually going to play quite well. He had the lead going into the weekend in Canada 2 weeks ago. Backed up a little bit, as you might expect for someone in his professional debut, but a top 25 at the U.S. Open last week. And the kid from the University of Virginia, I think, has got some big-time talent.
I think he's a real deal. I mean, the fact that it also goes to show you how the PGA Tour it's a program that's been proven now. And yeah, watch out for this guy's name. He's going to be around for a while.
No doubt about it. A lot of big names in the field here this week, Colin, trying to hunt down the title.
Yeah, and they go super low here. The scoring average the scoring might actually be super low this week with that 1.25 inches of rain that came through. Soft conditions, roughs down. It is going to be a feeding frenzy.
Soft golf course, short golf course, less than 6,900. We're going to get after it here. Fabulous field with the 8 of the top 10 in the FedEx Cup standings and the world here this week. Live first round coverage of the Travelers Championship can be found on ESPN Plus at 8:15 Eastern Time tomorrow. Golf Channel's first round coverage starts right here at 3 p.m. Eastern for tomorrow's opening round, the Travelers Championship. All right, next hole, Ben.